Hello, friends. Welcome to Akulmach Live. And in this series of understanding grapho analysis, grapho therapy, we are actually having discussion with Naveen Toshniwal for past couple of weeks. And today we want to discuss yet again with Naveen, and he will tell us something very interesting. So, without further ado, let's welcome him.
हेलो कैसे हैं आप?
Welcome to the show, Naveen. We are all fine and hope you're taking care because I think yellow alert has been announced in North India because of the cold wave. Hope things are fine at Jaipur as well.
Yeah, it's all fine, and in fact we are used to this cold at this time of the season, so it's perfectly fine. We are prepared, we are having mufflers and sweaters, so it's fine.
Great. I think your subject of grapho analysis has really, triggered the interest level of our viewers. And I think today you want to tell us something very, very interesting, specifically regarding one particular letter. So over to you, Naveen. All ears. We want to hear what you want to tell us today.
Yeah, I think in last couple of sessions I had told you about the slant of the handwriting and probably the upper loops, lower loops, and A's and O's, and the way you are writing M's and N's. I think we have discussed this in the earlier episodes. Now, T is one of the very important letters in handwriting analysis. And in fact, the book from where I've read, it has got 3 chapters on T. So, of course, I will briefly show you in the chart what various types of T will mean. See, now here, this is a normal T. I hope you can see it. And this T bar is crossing the T stem. And this T bar is slightly on the higher side. So this sort of T bar, which is closer towards the top, but not going above the stem, this shows people who are ambitious and they have a well-defined long-term goal. This T bar is going above the stem. This indicates people who are actually overthinkers. They think too much, and the actions to achieve their thinking is not there. They will go on thinking, I'll do this, I should do this, but that is all in thought. They will practically not do anything to achieve it. Now here you see a T bar is going low. This sort of low T bar indicates people who are lacking confidence or who have self-doubt. These people know they might be having difficulty in trying to initiate something. Even if they are trying to initiate, they may get self-doubt and they might leave the task in between. Now this T stem, you will see it has got a sort of inverted V formation. This indicates people who are stubborn, jiddi. They are a difficult nut to crack. Now here the T bar is going to the right of the stem. This indicates people who have short temper. Here the T bar is going to the left of the stem. This indicates people who have procrastination, habit of keeping things pending or delaying decisions. Now here you see there is a T bar which has got a hook. This hook indicates people who have got jealousy or they have got some sort of greed in them. So it's not a good stroke. Now here the T bar is starting thick and finishing in a point. This sort of T bar indicates people who are sarcastic. They have sarcasm in them. The T bar with a down slant indicates people who are dominating. They have tendency to dominate. A T bar slanting up indicates people who are optimistic, positive thinkers. Okay, now let's come to the next line. Here you will see the T bar is hardly visible. It's very, very small. It's almost like a dot, the T bar. This indicates people who are lacking willpower. They are not able to exactly give themselves a push to do something. Now, this one is having a curved T-bar, convex if you look, concave if you look from the top, and this T-bar is having a concave shape. It is a curved T-bar. This sort of curved T-bar indicates people who have got good self-control. Now, self-control can be related to small things like, I want to do this, or if you've got diabetes, I should avoid sweets. If you've got like BP, you should avoid salt. And it may also indicate more important things like, suppose you realize that you have some negative traits in you, which you are consciously trying to get over. That is also a good sign of self-control. Now here the T-bar is having a wave sort of formation. This indicates people who have a good sense of humor.
Yes, I think there are lot of lot of variation in tea, and that determines how difficult it is to understand the character of the person. And
Yeah.
there are
Sorry,
24.
there was a slight disconnection. Sorry, there was a slight disconnection. So now I'm back. Okay. So this sort of initial long stroke over here, this indicates people who have got resentment. They resent some old episodes which they are not able to get over or forget. Now, this is a T bar where a T bar and T stem are joined together. See, these are two examples where the T stem and T bar are joined. This is a positive stroke. This indicates people who are persistent. They will not leave anything if they start it. They will leave it only after they are able to finish the assignment. Now, another thing is you have a short T bar and a long, short T stem and a long T stem. A short T stem indicates people who are independent. They are not bothered. People, they know exactly what they are doing. They are not dependent on others. A long T bar indicates people who have vanity or pride. So it may tend to be a negative stroke if there is too much of it. So these are some various varieties of T's which we find in the handwriting. And as I told you earlier, it is the repetition of the strokes which carry the most important uh, value. The particular strokes which are repeated more number of times, that particular trait has a more prominence in your characteristics. So I hope this will give you some idea the importance of T in the various ways the T's can be written.
Well, Naveenji, it is so amazing to even hear from you about just one alphabet, which is T. And there are 24 in English language, and there could be, I mean, if you look at other languages, there are more alphabets. So it could be very, very complicated, to understand the character of the person looking at the handwriting, because if you look at combination itself using the formula of probability, it could be millions of combinations which will then filter down into a character of the person, isn't it, Naveen?
Yeah, it is, no doubt it is complicated. It's a very uh, not so easy to learn science, but then again it is very accurate. And after so much knowledge gaining and experience, it is quite easy for me now. But as you rightly said, if for a beginner, it will not be so easy to understand. It takes time because it's a vast subject. And whatever we are discussing here is maybe just 2 or 3% of this subject. And even today, I am also learning. There are many strokes, weird strokes, which I see in the handwriting, which I am not able to understand. So I have to try and analyze what that stroke means. And I also know someone in America who is an expert in this field. I have to consult him also that please guide me what this particular stroke means. So learning, as I told you, is a lifelong process.
Certainly, Naveen. In fact, you were also mentioning about the therapy because having identified certain negative traits, you can then help people to overcome those negative traits. So I think we don't want to talk too much about it. We will have that area covered about, especially about therapy, in the next session, which is next Monday. But you can tell us how actually it works, so that our viewers know that. Even if some negative traits they have, which they were not aware and handwriting is telling them, those can be corrected, those can be rectified. A few words from you, Naveen.
Yeah, see, actually, therapy is a very proven uh, part of graphoanalysis and graphotherapy. If you do it sincerely, you just have to devote about 5 minutes a day for 3 weeks, practice the stroke changes, and you will yourself be able to see or witness the change in yourself within a small duration of this 3 weeks. But remember, therapy is something which is always individualistic. Same therapy cannot be applied for everyone. If someone lacks willpower, the therapy for willpower has to be given. If someone is having short temper, the therapy for that stroke has to be given. Someone lacking self confidence, another stroke has to be changed. So it all depends on what uh, uh, therapy is applicable for particular people. Accordingly, the therapy is given to them.
Certainly, Naveen, I think it was a very interesting session we had today to understand implications of how do you write T and what it means when it talks about your character. It was very, very interesting. But I think in the next session, we will know a little bit more about the therapy, how therapy is given, and like you very briefly told that it's a 3 weeks program, but then is it permanent, not permanent? We will discuss all of that in the next session, Naveen. Thank you so much for joining us today, and hope to see you again in the new year or maybe before that.
Yeah, let's hope so. Actually, next week I would be traveling, so I will let you know whether we'll be able to do it next week. Otherwise, week after next is for sure.
So enjoy your holidays. Merry Christmas to you, and wish you all the success in your endeavor towards which you are heading to. And I will catch up with you next Monday. Naveen, it was always a pleasure to talk to you.
My pleasure too. Thank you so much.
Hello friends, this is Chandra from Akulmach Technologies, and today I would like to talk about a subject which is very close to the emerging economies. Now if you look at the global trend today, specifically in the startups area, there are two countries which are well known for startups. One is of course Israel, but the second country is called India. And every city, all the major cities which are famous for IT in India are having some program or the other for startups. And if you look at the government of India, they are also giving a lot of freedom for startup to flourish, to start in the first place and then flourish, and so on and so forth. Now, considering all of this which is happening, in fact, if you look at, there are everyday new ideas coming out in the field, and they are fructifying all these ideas in terms of building a startup community. And in order to look at this market segment, the Indian market has also, and also in Israel, in Tel Aviv, there are a lot of co-working players also coming out and helping these startups to kickstart or bootstrap their operations from day one. So today, if you look at the co-working centers location. They are giving them places to sit, to set up their infrastructure, to have a decent environment for sharing their working ideas, give presentations, call client, etc., etc. And there are so many of them. So basically, the co-working centers, if you look at cities, one city, there are so many co-working options available for startups. And all of these co-working centers are giving them good working environment. So today I would like to talk about what these co-working should do as far as my opinion goes, because every one of them are giving them good working environment, good place to sit, and of course this place to sit is not free. The startups have to pay rental in some sort of the other. So my opinion is that in addition to providing them the place to work, to start their operations, I think the biggest challenge today is how the startups will start making money. Even though there is a lot of freedom given, first year or 2 years of tax haven which is available, but how these startups will actually emphasize on their technology and start making money, start finding clients. So one of the biggest challenges, while I have a space where I can start my operations, but I don't have any other shared services which are available from these co-working places. So it makes more sense for the co-working centers to form strategic tie-ups with different kind of uh, players, players who are providing branding services, players who are providing them some sort of influencer services, uh, players who are providing the marketing services, and so on and so forth. And there could be more innovative ideas. So in nutshell, what I want to say today is that it's no longer the space or the environment for which startups are willing to pay the rental. I think if the co-working can provide under one roof area to work and also area to promote their work, that will be the more compelling value proposition, specifically when there is nothing unique in this in today's world, when there are so many co-working places available across all cities in India, in Tel Aviv. This is something which I feel personally, in my opinion, they can differentiate with others. So with this message, I will end my video today. Hope you like this idea, and if you like this idea, reach out to topbrass.akulmach.com, and we are willing to partner with all the co-working business centers and have a strategic relationship where your clients can leverage our branding and marketing services under one umbrella. Thank you, and look forward to talking to you again.
Hello, friends. This is Akulmach Live, and I'm your friend Chandrakant. Today, there has been a spectacular news which is related to business, which is Tesla decided that they will allow other electric vehicle to be charged in their charge station. I think this will have a very huge implications with regard to opportunities, and this is exactly what we will discuss today in our show. To discuss this opportunity, I will be joined by a very senior, very eminent speaker from UK. So friends, don't go anywhere. I'll be back along with my guest in a moment. Welcome back, friends. And today, as I had promised, we have a very interesting discussion just coming up with our guest, Mr. Neville Gund, who is joining us from UK. Welcome to the show, Neville.
Good morning, CK. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, we've got an interesting discussion today, and it's about progress. It's about changing from being a petrol head to being a silent running vehicle. So I wonder if any of you can guess what that is. We'll put you out of your misery. It's about electric vehicles and something new today in the news, I hear, from India. CK, why don't you share it with everybody?
Well, I think more than the news, the whole idea is about diversification. I think that is the key here, because Tesla has decided to create a network of charging points, charge station, and open their charge stations for any electric vehicle. So I think their technology of charging their vehicle is now getting into higher segment where they are diversifying, so that all other electric vehicles, even their competitors, can charge their vehicles from their charge points.
Well, that's, as you say, diversification. I mean, this is, to me, it's called collaboration. So all of a sudden, so rather than Tesla being in the monopoly, saying this is mine and only our vehicles can use it, and the reason only our vehicles use it because you need a special plug. But now, of course, it's a universal plug. It's a universal socket that people can then plug into. Now, people will hear me talk about collaboration all the time. Now, I think this is a very smart move by Tesla. I think this is a move whereby saying you may not be able to afford a Tesla, but you know what? You can come to a Tesla charging station. So all that means is that the word Tesla, the name Tesla, the brand of Tesla is still firmly in your mind. What do you think of that?
Neville, this move of Tesla will trigger a new age of diversification, because it's not as simple as, allowing other people's car to come and, hey, come over and charge in my Tesla charge station. It's about diversification. It's basically going beyond Tesla vehicles and making revenue for his company using the charge solution as a platform. So that is why this is a remarkable move by Tesla, where the age of diversification into electric vehicle arena, also some sort of co-branding, some sort of loyalty plans that may come out with. So who knows what they have in mind, but I think it looks like from business point of view, this is a great move.
Oh, absolutely. And you mentioned the diversity you're going to need. So it's not just the fact that it's now a universal plug-in, which I think is a very smart move, because the Tesla brand will be everywhere. But more importantly, what do you think about Tesla entering the world of fintech, if they're not there already? I mean, why wouldn't they create their own credit card? For instance, in the UK, we have lots of loyalty cards. In the US, you're inundated with your loyalty cards. You open your wallet and you've got one bank card and about 40 shop cards. Here, you tend to have one or two shop cards. But the loyalty arena is going to pay huge dividends, I think. And it's not beyond the world of imagination where Tesla will actually create their own loyalty card. Buy 500 kilometers worth of electricity and get 10% free. It's and how do you do that? Well, you need our loyalty card, and of course it can be digital. So literally you sign up online, and as you plug in your vehicle, you put your PIN number in and off you go. So all of a sudden, Tesla now know about where you're traveling, what your vehicle relationship is, how often you're charging your vehicle. And guess what? Maybe they'll become the Amazon of the EV world. They'll say, well, while you're traveling, why don't you snack on this? And you can pick it up at this power point, at this charging point. We're waxing lyrical here. This is two old guys thinking about where this technology is going to go. But this is not beyond the realms of imagination, is it? This is one small step for mankind, or for man, one huge leap for mankind, I think. Didn't someone say that before?
I think, Neville, this is very true, because Tesla, Mr. Elon Musk, is already playing with cryptocurrency. And believe it or not, the Indian central government has announced that they will launch their own cryptocurrency.
because there has been a lot of debate on that. So who knows, Tesla may say that, hey, I'll collect money in cryptocurrency on my charging station. So I think that would be the first point when they can integrate. And you mentioned about loyalty cards. I think there are a lot of cross branding, cross selling solutions possible. You can generate points and exhaust those points elsewhere in a mall. So things like that, I think this will open up the whole new ball game of having a very intelligent Amazon type of dashboard available to the users of electric vehicles.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to say we're just scratching the surface here, but you have to think about long term. You have to think about what happens after you've created this charging station. And we've only got to look at a gas station. When a gas station opens, it sells gas. No, it doesn't. It sells lots of other things as well. And not just things that are relevant to the vehicle itself. So I remember the good old days. My goodness, we're going to go trip down memory lane here, where you would go into we call them petrol stations over here, not gas stations, where you go into a petrol station and someone used to put the petrol in for you. They call it in America, they call it a full service. And it still happens in some places in America. When I've been there, not too recently, you can get a full service. And they'll clean your windscreen, and they'll clean your back window, and they'll clean your side mirrors. And all of a sudden, you feel as though you're a customer, not digitally putting your number into a keypad to see if your credit rating is good enough to pump gas. And the other thing is, of course, as I said, remember the good old days of you could also buy oil, antifreeze, anything that was relevant to the vehicle. But you could also get a snack. You could also get a drink. And in days, probably, I would say maybe 10 years ago, they introduced the happy snack. So a meal, a meal on the go. So it was a sandwich, crisps, and a drink, all for one particular price. So you can see where this is going. I mean, just look at your service stations currently. Just look what's in there, even down to payment. You go into a Shell garage here. We should charge Shell for this, probably. We should get some royalties. If you go into a Shell garage and you give them your loyalty, the first thing I ask you is, have you got your Shell card? Because it's a loyalty card. And then if you say no, they say, would you like one? So even the kiosk operators are upsellers. They're the best salespeople out there. They are upselling all the time. And that's what can be done here. So I'm really interested in seeing what's going to happen with the Tesla arrangement. And of course, if Tesla's smart, and I'm sure Elon Musk is a pretty smart individual, as we've seen in the past, he'll be lots of co-branding. He'll be bringing in McDonald's, and with the drones, my guess is while you're charging your vehicle, a drone will deliver your McDonald's or your Burger King or your Big Mac, whatever it's going to be. I'm sure they'll do deals with them. And of course, it'll be that pop-up type arena. Of course, will be before the car drives itself. So in the end, I think driving a car will be quite boring. It'll be literally just, getting in a taxi and say, take me to your leader. And we'll see what happens. But let's say we're just waxing lyrical here, as usual, CK. Any thoughts on where you think this might go? What opportunities for people to talk to the Tesla brand, maybe?
Well, in the SFO, where I have actually driven a Tesla car from LA to SFO, there are numerous charging stations. There are huge area which are blocked by Tesla, where you can plug in your car and go and enjoy your McDonald's or whatever you want to have. So there is a whole lot of services which are already available in Tesla charging station. And you mentioned about full service. So Indians are used to full service, because I don't think we will ever pay for cleaning your screen or filling my petrol in the car. So whenever we go, even today, you're talking about old days, but even today, I think my expectation is that if I go into a petrol station, I will get petrol. I will also get my windscreen cleaned. And therefore, if that is a business Tesla is now entering, where there will be a charge, they have to understand the psychology of Indians, because I think there are a lot of freebies Tesla will need to bring in. So it's not only cross-selling, co-branding, there has to be some freebies, something linked for future sales, a free nitrogen top up in your tires. So I think it's a whole Monty, I would say.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, it literally is going to be, you drive up to this place and you throw the person your keys and you take a ticket. But of course, you won't take a ticket because you've done it digitally before you get there. It knows when you're going to be arriving down to the second. It actually, even knows your name. And you literally don't have to throw them the keys because you've allowed them temporary access through your PIN code. So that's the world we're living. And, I look forward to it, to be honest with you, because anything that makes life easier for us, can only make it better, can't it?
Well, the interesting thing is, as part of the billion pounds agreement between India and UK, I think there is a lot of technology which is flowing into India, because India is being a very big consumer market. And there has been an EV agreement as well. I'm not aware. I don't remember the exact details right now, but I think I have read that there is an agreement with regard to transfer of technology with regard to EV from UK to India. So I think this space is really heating up, Neville, and we will stick around and keep following whatever the development is. But for today, the charge stations of Tesla will be able to charge other manufacturers' electric vehicle. That's a big news.
It is the big news, and see what happens. And the nice thing about it is, the more we get into this EV arena, the more we reduce the carbon footprint, the better it is for everybody. So I'm looking forward to it. My next vehicle will definitely be all electric. Be honest with you, I don't even think I'm going to have much of a choice, because the government has said past 2025 there won't be any petrol cars. So watch this space. CK, as ever, been great speaking with you this morning. Enjoy your day. It looks like the clouds are moving behind you, so keep out of the rain.
Certainly, Neville, and you also have a good day. We will catch up tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Cheerio.
Hello friends, welcome to Akulmach Live, and I am Chandrakant. Today morning I got an email from Zoom saying that as per the new IT Act, they have modified their use policies. And I have actually glanced the policy, the new policy, and some of the things which are mentioned here are the age limit. They have defined very clearly who is the probable user of Zoom services. Then there is a record regulation around recording, and also regulation about the content distribution, because it could be copyrighted. To discuss this matter, I have a very senior distinguished personality in the studio, Mr. Neville Gund, and we will discuss this policy impact which is happening in India.
Good morning, CK. Good morning, everybody. And yes, these providers, content providers, platform providers are now being pushed heavily by governments around the world to maintain security, maintain copyright, and maintain lots of other things, privacy in particular. But I think something that may have missed a lot of people's attention here, and this is particularly for schools, because the majority of schools during COVID jumped into the digital world, and by far and above most other platforms that were currently existing, Zoom is one that I think an awful lot of schools have locked into because of the flexibility and the ease of use and the fact that you don't have to have a huge program running in the background. It's all web-based, it's nice and digital, it's nice and quick. But what that means now, just for education, so let's just focus here for the moment, is that if you're under 16, and let's face it, there's millions of young people in India in particular that are under 16 that are using Zoom for their education, for their academic, prowess, moving forward in academics arena. Now they're not allowed to use it. That's the bottom line. You perhaps may be able to get around this by having the parent log on to Zoom. But in some respects, I think that's probably pushing the law a little too far, and it's certainly putting the license beyond that which Zoom has actually instigated, because they've been very clear. And the other thing is, quite rightly, as you said, copyright. Copyright is huge here. And in education, they need to think about this as well, because the number of teachers that I've seen put things up that they have no right to be putting up, no access to, and getting over copyright or using within the law of copyright is easy. As long as you put the source of the information, where it's come from, so you're recognizing the author, then that's absolutely fine. It's when you take the author away, when you take the rights of their privacy, their priority work that could have taken them years to do, when you take that away, you are contravening any copyright, the international copyright law. So just for education, I think we need to be helping them understand what this new law means and how it's going to work, because their practices are going to have to change, and they're going to have to change overnight. Because Zoom, if you go onto a Zoom conference today from your country, they will have to sign this disclaimer. And the other thing is, like anything else, people do not read the fine print. So we're bringing this to your knowledge. We're raising your awareness, because you're going to have to deal with it, and you're going to have a process and a policy to deal with it. What that is, we'll happily help you, develop it. But, by all means, you need to consider it carefully, because the last thing you want to be doing is using the Zoom platform in particular, and actually you're going to be going against the rights of use.
Well, Neville, Google was the first company to nail this whole thing. And if you know about Google, they will not allow you to create an email address if you're below 16 years. And they were the first one. And you can create a student email address, but then you will be part of a family pack. So if you're like 15 years old child, then you can create, but your parents will have to create it for you as part of a family pack. And then using that email, whatever you do, it is intimated to the parent. That is how the Google has solved this legal problem. But in case of Zoom, you're not even allowed to use if you're below 16. And you have to indemnify Zoom about all the content that you're sharing. So there is a content sharing policy. I've not gone through this in detail, but I'm sure it must be uniform across the world. You are supposed to be owner of the content which you're sharing. It should not be obscene in nature. It should not be a sledging kind of content, etc. And then Zoom has most importantly said that if they identify some of these violations, they will simply remove you from their client list.
See, that's the important part that we need to make. We need to get education clear of this today. This, in many respects, is the first that's actually said you can't use a video machine a video content machine, a platform, or anything like that if you've got under 16-year-olds. They haven't even included a family pack by the words I've written. Now that may be, something that Zoom need to address as well. So if Zoom's listening to this, then please address it, because there are so many thousands of pupils and schools that are relying upon Zoom as that, content director, as that communication tool, and they're utilizing the Zoom platform, however well they can do it. And, our thoughts today are, get the teachers, get the head teachers involved in just exactly what's happening. Just look at what's happening, see how it's going to affect you. Obviously, for any of your children over 16, don't have a problem. But there's millions of young people, not just in India, but across the world, that are tuning in to teachers giving lessons over Zoom. We just have to be really careful now. And being aware means you can do something about it.
Well, the second thing here is, Neville, is that if you are recording, say for example in school arena, if you're recording a class session, then you're not allowed to do that unless you have taken permission from the other side. So if the schools are recording some 30-40 students joining the session, and if they're recording it for improving the quality, they are not allowed to do that using Zoom platform. So they have to use some other platform. I don't know what that platform would be, but at least using Zoom, they have to take permission from each and every student, and it's like an opt-in service.
Well, like anything else, there's always got to be a first mover. As you quite rightly said, Google did this some time ago just on email addresses. They were smart. They created a family pack. So what that meant was that there was a discussion in the family, which is really good news. People that want to get around that can still get around it. They can ask their uncle to do it because their mum and dad won't, or something. But my point is, at least they looked at what should be happening. Perhaps Zoom will go down this route as well. I hope they do, because there are far too many people involved in the education arena alone. I'm not touching the business arena for the moment, because most businesses actually are over 16. So this is where maybe Zoom's thoughts have been. However, please, if you're in education, if you're a teacher there, or you're a governor, or you're an owner of a school system, we'll happily work with you, and so that you can understand what's possible within these changes. But the thing is, these changes are there, and you will be, as CK said, if you do not abide by their rules, the license will be taken away. And just imagine the thousands of kids in your schools that now will not have that option. And yes, there are other, webinar type packages that are out there. Google's got one, Microsoft's got one, and a few others have got their own bespoke. But the interesting thing is, you don't really want to be moving away from something you're comfortable on. So the message today is quite simple. The rules have changed. Please listen to what those rules are. We've just literally scratched the surface on these changes, but these are the three important ones, and you need to be aware of what's happening and make sure that your school or your school district or any parent now needs to be aware of this. And the last thing you want is to slow down education, which we had during COVID. That's the biggest issue. And that's what will happen here if we do not act. So it's a tough subject, I'm afraid. It's a bit of tough love for people that are out there, but the rules do change. You just have to be aware of them.
Yes, Neville. In fact, the third thing is the copyright, which is when the school teachers are showing some examples, some diagrams, some study material, it has to be their own content. They cannot take any other content from Google and show it to people or the students. So I think that is the third important aspect. And because these things, I read it and I have written to principal of my school of my kids saying that what are they going to do now, because they are heavily using Zoom for everything, freely. It's a free tool, just use it, that kind of thing was happening. What they are going to do now is the question mark. and I've written to the principal. Let's see what decision they take.
Well, again, part of what we're doing here is just raising awareness, and hopefully raising Zoom's awareness as well, because there are things that they can do. I completely understand why they've done what they've done, but when we're talking about under 16-year-olds, they have to recognise that there's a lot of users out there that are under 16, and they're in the good arena, they're in the education arena, and the last thing we want to be doing now is having a fight over the next 2 to 3 months over what is allowed and what isn't allowed, because young people have missed enough schooling around the world over the last 18 months. So now what we need to be doing is fixing this very quickly, or at least having a patch, a workaround that works within the law, but obviously it's not stopping young people in their education.
Absolutely. In fact, the schools can come out with their own ERP, with their video sessions, and they will have to exert a little bit more and not rely on the social media platforms like Google or Zoom. I think they have to get out of it. That is the only solution which I see. And just in case if some smart student who thinks he's a smart cookie create a email address with a wrong age, then as per the legal liability and indemnification clause, he is liable for violating the law. So the law is very clear. I think we are going to see some big changes in the education industry now.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So it's about taking personal ownership. So it's a message we just want to pass to people. There are ways you can work within this and make it work for you. It may mean a little bit more process up front, but we'll also hopefully be sending Zoom a message to just say, what else can you do? You've looked like you've solved the business arena, but actually I think you've missed a big arena here too. So this is a watching brief, but the last thing is we want to stop activity. We don't want that to happen. We want young people to get the education that they deserve and they have a right to have, and technology shouldn't stop that progress. It should actually enhance and improve the process. But it's an interesting discussion today, CK. I hope the education arena is listening. It's not just India. This is going to be a global phenomena, because India may be one of the first that are out there, but believe you me, Zoom are going to be doing this across the globe. So whether you're in education in any other of the continents, you need to be addressing this now.
Absolutely, Neville. In fact, we can end our discussion right now, and we keep following this story as it evolves. It just happened today morning, but I think we will keep following what changes the schools are making, and I will come back to you with more updates. For today, I'd like to say goodbye.
Cheerio, everybody. Have a good day and have fun.
Hello friends, welcome to Akulmach Live. I'm Kanchan Verma. And today in this episode, we have a special guest from Chicago. And she runs her own organization, Sanjeevni, where she helps people from loneliness. Now, I have come across people who say that I am not being understood by people. I'm surrounded by those kind of people who don't understand me. So that is why I'm lonely. But on the other hand, I also know people who say, thank God I'm lonely, because in this case, I can concentrate more on myself. But between these two ideologies, there's a finer line where people are lonely and they need help. And here Sanjeevni plays a vital role. So stick around to this episode till the end. You will know more information how to get help from Sanjeevni, especially this episode is for those people who are out of country, out of India, and where Sanjeevani can play a vital role. Hello friends, welcome to Akulmach, and today we have a special guest, Mrs. Pramila Kumar, who is based in Chicago. So I would like to welcome her today. So how are you, Pramila? Welcome to our show.
Thank you so much, Kanchan. I'm doing good. Thank you for Akulmach to invite me back.
Well, today, we had been discussing about some traits which are very, very harmful when we talk about the personalities and human beings. And now, when you are based in Chicago and people travel to America, they have some challenges like loneliness. So, how your organization Sanjeevani really help these kind of people in a foreign land?
I'm going to just speak about USA, which is it's becoming the land of immigrants. And when South Asian or Indian immigrants come here, they're mostly young in the age group of 25 to 35. Either they're coming here to study or they're coming here for a job with young families. Over time, what has happened, Kanchan, that they have received a green card and they have also invited their families, parents, in-laws to come and stay with them. In this land of the twittering youth, there is a very large population of aging seniors. And they are fending off loneliness and isolation, which accompanies when they have moved to this country from India. And all of them are kind of hidden. And they call themselves the 0.5 generation. And
so actually, definitely that is a problem, because some senior people who really go out from one city to other city in India, that also becomes a problem. But then we are among our people, we understand the culture, we know the people. But definitely when somebody is traveling outside the country, and that is a major problem. So what kind of case which you can discuss about this loneliness?
The biggest thing which comes in is isolation, loneliness, nobody to talk to, nobody to go, because if we are not able to drive, it's very difficult to travel here, again in USA. So they're confined to their homes, and because of language barriers, they're unable to speak to their neighbors or other people. The biggest part, Kanchan, is also culture differences. In India, you can talk to the milkman, to the helper, go to the shop, and just step out of the house. There's tons and tons of people there. But in USA, that may not be the case with most of these aging parents.
So how you really help with your organization Sanjeevani to these kind of people? Because you say if somebody is a loner and he's talking to you, doesn't mean that he's happy. Because we have to really identify that he is a loner and how we can help. So how you really initiate this help?
So nowadays, in the last few years, a lot of organizations have come up, small groups, which is only geared for senior people. So if you're 70 or above, you can join. And the good part, Kanchan, is this makes it possible to connect with people who are of their own age, talk of their home back in India, maybe talk of their sons, daughter-in-laws, and so on and so forth, talk of the grandkids. So these kind of social groups have started coming in, and these are based by areas. And these senior citizens not necessarily have a disease. It's not that you need to give them medication. What you need to give them is that they are welcome, they are needed, and there's someone to talk to. So these small, what we do, we try to connect them to these small groups so that they can facilitate, socialization. It's like a, seniors date, like we do the kids' playtime. So it is a playtime for senior citizens.
I also really add one thing here, because you see, when anybody in any point of life leaves the purpose, so then that is also one thing which initiate a loneliness, and people don't know what to do, and so I think they need to have a purpose. So really, you guide them to have a purpose or passion.
Yes. So the Kanchan, the thing is, in general, what I will say, when we are, when people are young, they're busy with their families or their work. So, if they're working, either they have a business. So until 60, 65, they're so busy with their careers and family. But once the children step out, it seems I have nothing to do. What do I do? Do I watch TV? Do I do this? So two things we always recommend, to all Gen X and millennials: have a hobby, number one, have a hobby, have friends. These two things are going to keep a person go a long way. But the challenge is, Kanchan, most seniors, they come to a stage, they cannot pick up hobbies. They do not know what to do with them. They do not know what talent they have. And friends, if you don't make them early on, it's a big problem. And you're right, purpose is important, but you have to develop the purpose early on. It cannot happen at 70. Well, it's a challenge to have at 70.
Well, when we are talking about the Sanjeevani, suppose the one critical case comes to you. So, what are the process and procedure you follow to guide the senior person to come out of his shell, come out from the loneliness? How you do that?
So no one case is similar to the other. Every case is different. And if they have reached to Sanjeevani for help, we have a process to identify, what is the concern? Why are they reaching them? Is it a short term versus it's a long term issue? And then we involve them in talk therapy. They can call every day. They can call, whenever they feel lonely. And over a period of time, we have seen that psychotherapy has helped certain citizens. But Kanchan, the most important part is for anyone to agree to say, I am not feeling that well. Let me call someone. Let me reach for help. That's the first step.
So, in the last, I just want to ask you your message to people who are aging and how they can, if they are not lonely, because most in India, especially, most of the people, they live in joint family. So, loneliness is hit by a very low percentage. But when somebody who's outside of the country, and this is not country centric, actually it's not a continent centric,
it's global.
So what is the message you want to give these people? Sometimes young people are also lonely, so what you want people to do to come to be away from loneliness?
One thing in the first part, I will answer that, we're all going to get old. It's only going to be increasing. So we have to understand that our body is not going to remain the same what it was in 20s, 30s. So once we recognize and we accept, maybe I'm not that agile, I'm not that fast, and do not remember things often, I cannot work that faster. That is the first acknowledgement. Your body will change. The faster you understand and accept the change, the easier it is for you to take it forward. And yes, have a purpose. In any life you can find purpose. Do some volunteer work, step out of the house, make an effort. Even though people live in joint families, that person is responsible for his or her well-being and happiness. It's not easy to find that. So have a purpose in life and make it move forward. And don't dwell about the past. You say, when I was 30, I was doing this. When I was 20, I was doing this. No, I'm 80, I can do this. That's the message what we would like to share. Have a purpose in life, acknowledge that your body is not going to remain the same as we age.
Well, this is something very good and very good guidance to people. And I just want to say congratulations to Sanjeevani to keep on doing good work. And as usual, Pramila, it is so lovely to talk to you.
And thanks once again, Kanchan, for having me here.
Yeah, see
thanks
you.
Everyone.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Hello, friends. This is Chandrakant, and I welcome you on this very bright Monday morning in the Doctor Speak. And our guest doctor today is Dr. Pooja Bedi. So let me welcome Dr. Pooja without further ado.
Good afternoon, CK. Thank you so much.
Yes, doctor. I think today we would like to discuss about something related to the mental health, and there is a lot of confusion about the bipolar syndrome, and people don't seems to understand what is bipolar, what triggers it, and what are the symptoms, in fact, to identify those symptoms. So I think it is a good subject for us to discuss. So the first question would be from my side is, what is a bipolar? I think if you can explain this in very simple layman term for our viewers to understand, it will be great.
Yes, definitely. CK, as the term indicates that bi is two and the polar means poles. So this disorder basically is associated with the two different apart poles of mood swings, where suddenly a person is having a very hyperactivity mentally, physically, which can actually lead to very relentless decisions. And then there is a phase when this person comes down. So in a very, very low, or we say hypomaniac manner, and the intensity becomes very low in terms of energy, in terms of talking, in terms of having meals, don't want to talk to someone. So bipolar disorder is basically a disorder which is associated with the mood swings. So the mood swing basically are of two types. Either the person become very, very hyper or becomes very, very hypo. And the reason for the same is very difficult to come out with. So the major reason we come across is it can run in the families. We have seen it if somebody has a bipolar, uh, which is very, very remarked, or you can say remarkably seen in the particular generation, is definitely getting inherited in the other generation. So that is one of the factor. But besides this, if we say the social factors are there, you can say the some sort of chemical incoordination in the brain can also lead to bipolar disorder. And unfortunately, it starts at a younger age, and as a parent or as a, you can say, healthcare professionals, we are not able to diagnose them right bang on time. So if we are able to do it, if the parents are more aware, if the society is more aware why the child is undergoing sudden ups and downs, mood swings are there, hormones play definitely one you know factor into it. But the and uh, sudden low and sudden high in children, if it can be diagnosed at a very early age, it can be catered very nicely later on in the same cases. So I highly recommend that the pre-existing factors like ADHD, where the kids are very hyperactive, suddenly they start shouting, and they behave very normal after a while, and then suddenly they become very low. So this kind of mood upsets, if the frequency is very high, going to a psychologist or to a psychiatrist or maybe to a health professional or maybe having a group therapy can really help a lot. So bipolar disorder is a very chronic illness marked by severe mood swings. It can affect both the genders, women and men, but women are more vulnerable because of many reasons. They get into the maniac mode for the longer durations, which make them more vulnerable for the episodes in the future. So it is actually a thing which is not catered very nicely in the society. So we need to be more aware about it.
So, doctor, tell us, is this a disorder related to the age, or is it can happen to anyone at any time? Uh, what is the beginning, the first sign of having the bipolar syndrome?
Right. So the first thing is the age. Let's discuss about the age. It usually happens little later in the age. The early childhood, the indicators definitely they start popping up. Like I mentioned, ADHD. It can actually, if left untreated or uncatered, can lead to uh, a little severity. I'm not saying bipolar only, but maybe in any other form it can come up. But yes, many of the ADHD cases, sooner or later, you can say in the adulthood, it starts affecting the person. So not at an early age, bipolar starts affecting. And second is uh, the age was the one thing that we were discussing, and second, I'm so sorry.
The second was,
Part of the question
can
was
it happen to a particular type of people, or it can happen to anyone?
it can happen to anyone, but yes, people who are already having it, and they can definitely give it to their coming generation. So genetic effect is there. But otherwise, there as such, there's no particular age group you can say which gets affected, or it is not a gender bias thing. It can affect anyone. But yes, the like alcohol abuse cases, or you can say substance abuse cases that are there, they are more vulnerable towards the bipolar or the mental health other issues that are there. So they are more vulnerable towards it.
The reason I asked this question is primarily because I wanted to bring clarity that this is not related to genes. It could affect anyone having difficult situation or highs and lows, as you mentioned. So I think that is one point that is clear now. We have also seen that this affects very popular people. Maybe we don't hear about them, normal people, but we usually hear about the very successful people who are always in limelight and attracting media attraction. So does bipolar is a byproduct of becoming popular too soon, too early, or it could be non-related to your fame at all? It can happen to anyone, whether you are a successful person or you are a normal person. It could still affect you. What are the reasons behind it?
If we are talking specifically to the people who are very, very successful and there's an instant success is there, somehow I will say that the first reason in them is the drug or the alcohol abuse. So this is called as dual diagnosis. When the people who actually go very, very high and at a very high pace, they tend to suffer some kind of anxiety, which they are very easily able to cater for it by themselves. So the or maybe some other kind of thing. So which is a pre-existing factor in them, along with, I would say, alcohol or drug abuse can definitely take a person towards a bipolar syndrome. And the sad part is, if it is left untreated, if it is left maltreated, or is misdiagnosed, and if the societal or the family support is not there, it can end up in a suicidal cases as well. So in the very, very extreme cases, yes, it can definitely lead to suicidal tendencies in the people. And to an extent, when people are very successful, they tend to get into bad habits. So I would say the plus of the bad habits and the pre-existing factors can definitely lead to it. But if we are talking just that the person is going high and suddenly sees a low, so the mood changes are there. So again, the factor is not that they are suddenly successful or instant success and the money flows in. No, that is not the reason. But yes, if the sudden low is there, if they are not able to stabilize their mood, they are not able to control their emotions, they are not able to control that disturbance that is coming for a transient phase, it can definitely lead to some or the other mental disorder, or maybe later on bipolar as well, because we see many cases ending up, unfortunately, with the life, you can say, attempt to suicide or suicide. So yes, it actually affects.
So, Dr. Pooja, I mean, I'm like a normal layman. As a layman, I understand there are three scenarios. One is at time of dire strait. Many times we feel superhuman. We feel that there is an adrenaline rush, and we start doing things like a superhuman. And at times, as you mentioned, there could be a suicidal tendency. So there is one scenario where you take very difficult task and you probably finish it or perish doing that. Second is that for no reason you want to just have a suicidal tendency. And third is a bipolar. What is the difference between these three? And my second part of the question is, is suicidal tendency is necessarily part of a bipolar, or a trigger from bipolar causes the suicidal tendency? I mean, if you can just explain this in more detail, so it will help our viewers to understand where they stand.
Yes. So, coming to the first part of the question, where you say that adrenaline rush can lead to such kind of mood swings, definitely it leads to some kind of mood swings. But look at the sports people or people like us. We are able to cater for those emotional disturbances very easily. We have to get into that ritual of getting back to the daily chores or the target that is there. So failures are part of life for everyone. So the sooner or later they accept, so the better is their mental health. So coming to the again to the first question, adrenaline rush, the moment we are able to cater for the ups and downs in life or in success or in terms of money, many people are able to do it. This is why the human race is surviving. So it has nothing to do with the bipolar till the time. So sports person, otherwise the moment they retire, so the adrenaline rush definitely goes down. So it never happens that in majority of the cases they stay very normal, or people like us as well. So sudden fame, sudden money, the till the time individual is able to control his ups and downs, he is not going to have very threatening kind of mental health issues or bipolar for sure. But coming to suicidal tendencies that people have, yes, bipolar has got a role. So there's the second part of question. So suicidal tendencies, it happens when the person is in extreme low, you can say. So we are very much aware that the anxiety, depression, societal pressures, familial pressures, career, money can all lead to these kind of tendencies. Or you can say, unfortunately, they mature as well into some kind of suicide, losing the life. But if you go towards the higher side of it, why the successful people, why the people are who are having money, so there's some kind of mental disturbance in the form of comorbidity, you say, or the pre-existing factor, you say, is already there, which is a very false notion in itself, because the bipolar, you can say, is running in the back, and it is performing itself in a hypermaniac form. And in the hypermaniac form, when people are relentlessly deciding certain decisions, they can actually go for suicidal acts as well. So in both the cases, the suicide can happen because of the emotional low or emotional high as well. So we need to crack a balance. Somebody who is having these kind of tendencies, they definitely need a psychotherapy. It can be catered. Medications are also there. Counseling sessions are there. So the psychosocial therapies are there. They can actually help them out. And the third part of the question, that the bipolar is not that it always ends up in the suicide. But as I mentioned, that if it is associated with any kind of substance abuse, or you can say alcohol abuse, so if these factors are there, or drug abuse, you can say, people are taking drugs a lot these days, youngsters are taking a lot. So there's sudden mood changes that are there. In those mood changes, yes, they can definitely go for suicidal tendencies, but it's not that it is bipolar is highly marked with the suicidal tendency. But yes, if left untreated, as I mentioned, if left misdiagnosed, it can definitely lead to suicidal tendency. Because when they are in a very high mood, they are not able to decide certain things or make certain decisions in a very rational manner. So they somehow end up in these kind of unfortunate things.
I think the most important question is, how do you identify? I think if somebody is having a bipolar syndrome, first of all, he will also not understand that he is actually bipolar, and the people around him also will not know. This guy is sometimes very angry on small things, and sometimes he's not at all attentive on things. So these are very normal things, which happens every day, maybe 5 times a day. How do you distinguish between a normal behavior and a bipolar behavior?
CCK, when it comes in the childhood phase, which I really insist, and majority of my talks and articles are on the childhood stage. So at that particular stage, since the bipolar does not manifest that early, but it exists in a very different and a pre-existing form like ADHD, which is pre-marked in children. You will see certain group of children who are very silent, they're okay, but they fight with their fellow friends, but then again next day they are there. But again, you will be able to witness one odd child in the entire group or crowd, you say, who shrieks, who shouts, and then suddenly mellows down. You know, suddenly he will start or she will start beating the younger ones, and suddenly you will say there's a change is there. After a week, they are having friendship with them again. So this is very normal. If somebody is listening, this is very normal. It happens with my kids. Somebody will say. But if the frequency of these episodes is very, very high or is very repetitive, then definitely we have to conclude or diagnose that particular childhood mental health issues are there with the child. So it's very important that we as a parent or society try to identify these kind of things in children. They suddenly start talking to you, and then you will see there's abrupt change, and they don't want to talk to you. They are sitting in one corner. Probably they were very fond of reading or playing a certain sport, and sudden changes there where they don't want to go out and play sports. So these are the indicators in children. When it comes to the adult, so specifically talking about the women, since they are more vulnerable for certain reasons, you'll see there are drastic changes in the moods. You see a female suddenly shouting, she is having a discussion, a very normal discussion with the family or with friends. Suddenly she'll just pop up in anger. Or you will say that after a while she mellows down as well. And then she becomes very normal, as though nothing has happened. So again, the thing is very normal. It happens sometime. But if the episodes are in frequency and repetitive mode, it needs to be catered. So if somebody is sitting alone, not talking to someone who was very extrovert, very jolly natured person, but suddenly you see their hobby has changed, they don't want to pursue their hobby anymore, or you say they have conflicting relations in their professional life, which was not there earlier, or they are crying very often. So it is a very marked indicator in the female. As far as men are concerned, they are more into the hyper side, to be very frank. So if we say one of the example, if some particular person is a very good driver, and this guy or this men tend to have frequency of accidents. So it is an indicator. I'm just citing one small example, uh, though it is not 100% related to this particular thing, but a small example. Somebody is a good driver, suddenly he is meeting up with or ending up with many accidents frequently. So it can show some kind of relentless decisions in, that this guy is taking. So in men, they are comparatively very less vulnerable compared to women, but both the genders are definitely affected with it. So the indicators are very clear. Sudden, you see a person is very jovial. During their high time, they tend to eat less food because so much of energy is there, and they feel like they're very confident. They can do anything, and suddenly they make some very big targets for themselves. And then after a week, or maybe say after a couple of years, you'll notice the same person who has set a very high target for himself or herself is not able to, or not wanting even to look at the target that he or she has set for herself. So these are the very clear indicators that come. But we have to definitely do the provisional diagnosis, that is it going towards anxiety disorder, depression disorder. But if it is a mood swing, then it is a definitely an indicator for bipolar.
Excellent, doctor. I think these are the things which everyone should watch out, especially when they are having kids around them, to look for such symptoms. And once these identified, um, how long the treatment can go, especially, for example, there is a kid who's showing these symptoms about 7, 8 years or 10 years. How long this will take to correct this bipolar syndrome?
Right. So coming to this particular thing, that treatment part and how long it takes, there are different types of bipolar actually. Bipolar 1, 2, cytothyroid, which is related to the thyroid actually. So in kids, if we regularize them, with their scheduling of the day, their time management, their habits, hygiene habits, if we motivate them to follow them on regular basis, they can come up out of it by themselves or with just a psychotherapy, or we say talk therapy. So in talk therapy also, majorly recommendations for the kids are to make them regularize or maybe little more disciplined, and be very very precautious about the kind of the diet they are taking. Diet has to be less in carbs, because diet has got some sort of effect on bipolar as well. So treatment in kids can last for just the, if you're talking about the psychotherapy, it can just be catered in a month time, maybe 6 months to 1 year time. But in elders, it varies definitely, and it depends on the type of bipolar disorder they are undergoing. For certain bipolar 1, it will take many years. But many bipolar cases, they only need treatment when they are in a very high phase, you know, when their phase is very, very high, or when they melt down. So these are only the two phases for which the medication is recommended. But as far as psychotherapy is concerned, or the counsel with the psychiatrist is concerned, they definitely go ahead little bit. But with kids, it can be early diagnosed and can be beautifully treated just with the psychotherapy itself in a couple of months, and kids can come out of it.
Doctor, I think I would like to ask you the one question which is related to the medicine, and there are all sorts of treatment which are available. So some treatment can be harmful, will show some side effect, and then there are some treatment which does not show side effect. So are there treatment available like homeopathy where the side effect may be less, it's less tedious to follow, people feel comfortable? Are there treatment available in for the bipolar in medicines like homeopathy, Ayurveda, etc.?
Yes, yes, definitely, CK. The medication is definitely available, but it has to be there with the very good psychotherapy as well, to be very frank, because that is a part, because the counseling is one part which can cater for the early symptoms, or maybe when the highs and lows are there, where we can train the person how to deal with it, how to deal when somebody is very very angry. So we teach them about the deep breathing exercise and many other mindfulness techniques that are available. So we teach them. But yes, along with them, there are alternative medicines which are available, which take some time because it is a chronic illness or disorder. So it takes some time to get off. But if the triggering factor is still there, nothing will work. If somebody has got drug or alcohol abuse, bipolar disorder, so I would say that they need first to be catered for their substance induced bipolar, and then the bipolar treatment be given. Yes, in homeopathy, Ayurveda, or alternative medicines, acupuncture also is very effective in bipolar. So yes, the treatment is definitely available.
Fantastic. It was lovely talking to you, Dr. Pooja, today. And this is a very important subject. I think, like any other mental disorder, we tend to overlook these symptoms and say, that, hey, this is part of our life, and probably he's just angry on certain things without analyzing. So I think, thank you very much for giving us a lot of information on how to identify what symptoms to look at, and then how do you treat a bipolar syndrome. So with this, I'd like to say goodbye to you today, and thank you very much for finding time and coming on this show. We will catch up next week again on something more interesting for the people.
I appreciate for the opportunity, CK. Thank you so much. Stay safe.
Bye bye, Dr. Pooja. Until next time.
Hello friends, this is Chandrakant from Akulmach Technologies and welcome to our first week of 2021. And we are starting with a lot of great news that we are bringing to you. And before I break the news, let me invite my friend from UK, Mr. Neville Gun.
Good morning, CK, and good morning, everybody. Yes, 2021 starts off, it's a new era. It's a new decade, beginning of the second decade of the 20th century, 21st century. Blimey, need my teeth in. And of course, this is the week for news. New news. We've got vaccines which are now being rolled out. We've got the new Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine, which is literally being delivered today, which is all great news about beating this particularly nasty coronavirus. And I've got a little bit more news to give people today. And this is about future jobs. The World Economic Forum are constantly updating where future jobs are going to be. What are the characteristics of those future jobs? What do you need to have? What talent do you need to have? What academic qualifications you need to have? What leadership qualifications and soft skills and the right attitude? All that's a given, but what jobs are going to be there? And that's what people, young people, particularly, probably 14, 15-year-olds, that might be looking at their first job in 5 or 6 years' time. What jobs should I be looking for now? What jobs should I be being aware of now? Because they're all being told artificial intelligence is coming in big time. Machine learning is already there. Some of the mundane jobs that you and I would call mundane jobs are being replaced by robots, which is really good news because, quite frankly, who on earth wants to do a mundane job? You just don't want to do it. So lots of jobs are going to disappear, but that means that there's an opportunity for new jobs to come through. One of those new jobs that not a lot of people have heard about is being a drone pilot. Any idea what that is, CK?
Neville, to be very frank with you, I have always wanted to be a pilot, but never made it. So I became a businessman. But when somebody asked me in school, "What do you want to be?" I would say, "I want to be a fighter pilot." But I think there is an opportunity for me. I think you have started something new, which our viewers would like to know.
Well, it was always those chat-up lines when you were going to meet girls in a bar, and they asked you, "What do you do?" "I'm a pilot," or it's sort of one of those glamour, or "I work for MI5." Not that they believed you at any one point, but it was always a good laugh when you were talking amongst your friends. But yes, when you talk about being a pilot, an airline pilot, it gives that level of professionalism, the level of integrity, the credibility that comes with it, even if you're a really bad pilot, But as we know, there are no such thing as bad pilots because they're all of a very high quality. Why? Because we trust them implicitly with our lives. Pilots don't sit on the ground. They take us up in an aircraft. And typically there are two. There's a pilot and a co-pilot and a whole crew. But we put our faith and our trust in that pilot. And under those circumstances, yes, of course, there's a level of leadership that you come with it. I mean, what sort of words come to you as you talk about an airline pilot?
Well, I think to begin with, intellectually very sharp. That is the first thing. Ready to take a decision in a split second. So ability to take decision at a very high speed. So that means brain works faster than normal person. And then travel the world, go around, see new places, make new friends. And also wherever you go, you are treated with a lot of respect because you are special. You are among the creme de la creme of all professionals. It's very difficult to become a pilot because I think you can be a doctor, you can be an engineer, you can be a colonel in an army, but even to become a pilot, It's just 1% of the professional cream that is used to select the pilot. So I think the pilot pedigree is only 0.001% from our society. It's a very special job.
Exactly, it's a very special job, you know, and you and I have never trained to be a pilot, so we got no idea, really. Let's face it. You know, I've jumped out of a plane with a parachute on the back a few times, but I've never trained to be a pilot. I really don't know what they go through, but I have an expectation. A few thoughts go through my mind. As being an accountant, I know what professional training I had to do to be an accountant, and I just expect them to have done more professional training, frankly. You know, all of a sudden they're on a different level because I'm putting my trust in them. Now, as the world has condensed itself and shrunk itself a little bit recently because of COVID, there hasn't been actually a huge demand for pilots because most airlines have been grounded. However, one of the future jobs that we do know is going to be there is drone delivery. Now, you might say, well, what's drone delivery? You know, because if you look at drones in the USA in particular, the drones are vehicles. Amazon and all of them, you know, including Elon Musk, are experimenting in delivery vehicles that literally get themselves from the dispatch office to your front door. Whether that's a business front door or it's your home, that's where drones, if you like, delivery have come from. However, in many parts of the world, aviation is a massive issue. Imagine in the worst cases, disaster recovery arenas, you know, when there's been an avalanche or there's been a volcano eruption, then the NGOs are looking at getting people and product services to that local area very quickly. Typically, that's currently being done by airborne drones. For every airborne drone, it's just like an aircraft. You need a pilot. And most of these pilots currently, as I've been experiencing over the last couple of years, are independent. They're only as trained as they want to be trained. They're not necessarily classed as professional. They're not given that accolade as being an airline pilot. And yet they're still actually managing an aircraft in flight, delivering much needed goods that could be a heart that's taken from one hospital to another that needs to be there super quick. And in London, you get jammed in, even with the alarms going on, you know, with the ambulance going no, 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 from one place to the next. People still have to get out of the way, and it takes time. Drones have got a clear line of sight, bang, peer to peer, point to point, A to B. They don't have to deviate. Those pilots actually are going to be worth their weight in gold going forward. And what we need to do is to today start recognizing that there are good pilots and bad pilots currently. And what we need to be doing is looking at their training, bringing them together, making them more professional, and at the same time, doing the marketing for them, getting them good jobs. Because these are solopreneurs, remember, you know? And the problem that consultants have that you and I know about all the time is when they're working for this project, they're not actually marketing themselves for other projects. So it's as though they need a 24/7 marketing support so that it's constantly saying, this is what we're doing, this is how we've done it, this is where we've done it. Hence, from the 1st of January, I'm proud to announce that we've launched, along with friends of mine, the Global Drone Pilots Association. And any drone pilot can join, and the real word is for free. We're not going to charge for the entry point. We just want to have a focal point where all drone pilots can show their wares, show how good they are, and we will help them with a bit of training, make them more professional so that actually they've got, this is a real career. So rather than being a service that people don't value, it's a career service where people do value, which means you need to invest in your own element of that service. So you need to show how good you are, that you are professional, and you're there to do the customer service. And the other thing is, by the way, what do you think you need to be a drone pilot? What technical capability do you think you need to be a drone pilot?
Well, I'm already a qualified drone pilot, Neville. I play a lot of games. I have a drone.
Exactly. Exactly. It's the game, it's that game arena, because gamers actually make really good drone pilots. They're constantly looking at a screen. They're getting feedback from a screen, a big screen or a small screen. They're maneuvering. They've got great hand-to-eye coordination. They can maneuver this. They're using all of their digits to make things happen. Almost like a Formula One driver, that everything's on the steering wheel. And the feedback is not just from the steering wheel, but from where you're going in front of you. So your Formula One driver, the big screen is live, but they have their own drone arena where they go in what they call the simulator. So anyone that loves playing in this simulator arena, my goodness, there's a career opportunity out there for you beyond the gaming arena. And remember, it's not one pilot for 10 drones, because that's just physically impossible. It's one pilot per drone. So if you imagine, and let's just think going forward now, because we're seeing the adverts on the TV, if you want your McDonald's takeaway, you go to an allotted slot and someone brings it to you. In the UK, we've got Deliveroo. So that, in essence, what you might call a tuk-tuk driver or a motorbike rider, brings the meal to you. It's going to be done by drone. It's definitely going to be done by drone going forward. Why? Because motorbikes, tuk-tuks, etc., even electric vehicles can only go on the highway, can only go on roads. If I go to my local McDonald's, it's about 3 miles away and would take even a motorbike rider about 15 minutes because of the traffic lights, the traffic, and it might even take 30 minutes on a bad day, despite the fact that the motorbike rider can weave in and out of traffic. How long would a drone take to go 3.5 miles? Well, actually,
It'll take hardly 5 minutes, I think.
Exactly. 5 minutes. 5 minutes. And equally, once it's delivered, it can take away the rubbish. So it could wait for you to unpack it and take away everything that it's been sent with. Okay, so we're actually saving the planet many times because this is an electric vehicle, not creating carbon dioxide, not utilizing any, not adding to traffic problems. All of the benefits that you can think of with a point-to-point, 50 meters up, assuming the Civil Aviation Authority allows it. So those are big issues you've got to get over. But again, once you become a professional organization, the aviation authorities are going to say, actually, okay, this is self-regulation now. These people are really regulating themselves. So they will recognize that unless you've got certain qualifications, you can't manage a drone. And then the organization, the industry becomes self-regulated. So all I'm doing here is putting a can-do hat on and thinking forward 5 years, what would I as a consumer want from a drone delivery? Because it's going to happen. I want it to be secure. I want the people to be professional. I want to make sure that they're not damaging anywhere. I would like them to be economic, efficient, and environmentally beneficial. What better than to start with the pilots themselves? So that's the theory.
So Neville, I have just one simple question. You already mentioned that joining your group, your forum, the Global Drone Pilot Association, is free. But are you putting any qualification criteria? Who will be eligible, who will not be, so that people know exactly what kind of quality of resources that the forum is maintaining?
Just like anything else, this is brand new. There is no qualification around drone pilots apart from what have you done before. So, if a farmer, typically, farmers employ drone companies all the time because they like to have the topology of their farm worked out, what crops are growing faster than others, where's the water problem, etc., etc. Huge amount of feedback from this little drone, about so big that just travels all the way around their particular acreage. There are no qualifications currently. It's literally, what did you do on your last job? So just like when you employ a consultant, it's how good are you? Where's your references? So in the first instance, we're going to say, if you are currently a drone pilot, you must be doing something. Whether you're doing it good, bad, or indifferently, only you will know. But come with us and we will show you how to be professional. Of course, we will bring in qualifications down the line, but in the first instance, this is calling all drone pilots, wherever you are, or even potential drone pilots. Because there are a few university students out there that are good gamers are thinking, oh, I've got another option here. I got another employment opportunity, something that I really enjoy. And I'm doing a degree that I really enjoy too, but I could actually make money about something I enjoy. And that's the answer, And as you well know, and I regularly say, if you're doing a job you enjoy, it's not a job, is it?
Absolutely. In fact,
That's the whole point.
absolutely, Neville. If you look at Will Smith, he was very brainy. He is brainy. He reached Harvard, but then he quit Harvard to become an actor, and he enjoyed doing that. In fact, I like to say that I will be among the first few applicants on your forum. I consider myself as eligible for drone pilots. I will register. I will also tell my friends to register because I think there are a lot of enthusiasm. There is a forum which is coming up globally, a database of all the drone pilots across the world, which can be leveraged. So I think I wish you all the best. It's a fantastic initiative, Neville. I think this is going to go forward from here.
Well, I hope so. And as I say, this is the job of the future. It's a job of today, but not many people recognize it. So what we need to do is to say, those that have got accountancy qualifications, those that have got architect qualifications, or acupuncturists with qualifications, why not drone pilots? Because all of a sudden, that takes you to a completely different level. It becomes a recognized profession. And under those circumstances, it will be a global commodity, a global service. And remember, a drone pilot could be living in Delhi and working in Minnesota. How about that for an online opportunity?
That's the power of digital, and I think it is going to affect us all. And I'm very excited, Neville, that you've started this. I know you personally also. I would register, and I'll ask all the viewers, my friends, my family, who feels that this is something they want to do, can register. So I wish you all the best for this new initiative which you have launched in 2021.
Thank you very much, CK. Have a good day, everybody. And remember, something you enjoy is not a job.
Absolutely, Neville. We will catch up with you again with some interesting subject. Until then, bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Akulmach Live. I am Chandrakant. Today, we would like to discuss about how state of Hyderabad got integrated into India during 1947 at the time of independence. And for this discussion, it's going to be very interesting. It's going to be a sort of a brief history for all of us, and many people may not know, what actually happened and what are the kind of efforts the Indian government and the founding fathers had to do to integrate India. And this is going to be a very nice learning for all of us. So stick around to this outstanding show which is coming up. But friends, also stay till the end because there is a free giveaway, and we will tell you in the end how you can actually win your free gift. So let's start our discussion. Friends, let me introduce our guest today. His name is Mr. Jeet Bhatt. He is a practicing lawyer at Ahmedabad High Court, and we are very honored to have him here on our show. Today, we want to discuss about how Hyderabad was included in India during after the independence during before 1950s. So Jeet will update us more on this from the legal aspect. So without further ado, let me have Jeet talk to you.
Hello, Chandrakant. Thank you for having me on this show. And I'm looking forward for this discussion with regards to the state of Hyderabad during the independence and how it got integrated into India.
Yeah, certainly, Jeet. In fact, there were a lot of stories, and there could be some misconceptions also among the people. And what really transpired, because I think one thing that we know as normal Indian citizen is that Hyderabad wanted to merge in with Pakistan and not with India. And then what happened? So we would like to know from you.
Yes, Chandrakant, certainly it's a very interesting historical feat that India achieved by integrating Hyderabad after so much of turmoil and after so much that went into the discussions, negotiations, persuasions, when Sardar Patel was at the helm of affairs as the Minister of the Ministry of States, and also the role played by Lord Mountbatten and also VP Singh, VP Menon, who was the Secretary of the Ministry of States. So certainly a very interesting historical feat achieved, and let me give you the brief background how it happened. Uh, so basically, Hyderabad state was founded originally by Mir Kamruddin in the year 19 in the 17th century, and he was made the viceroy of the Deccan by Aurangzeb's successor. Now, the Emperor Muhammad Shah conferred on him the title of Asaf Jah. So that is how the dynasty came to be known as the Asaf Jah dynasty, which was ruled by the Nizams of Hyderabad. So the in 1911, the Nizam was Mir Usman Ali Khan Bahadur, who had succeeded the Gadi and was the seventh Nizam of the state of Hyderabad. Now, geographically, Hyderabad was in the heart of the country, and also it was a very rich state with regards to population, revenue, and its importance. And it connected North India to South India. So it was in the center and the heart of the country. Now, at that time, the Nizam was ruling an area of around 82,000 square miles. And the Hyderabad state had its own coinage, currency, and also stamps. Now, the population of Hyderabad, interestingly, was predominantly Hindus, whereas it was ruled by a Muslim ruler. So around 80 or more than 80% of the population were Hindus. But the civil services, the police, the army, and all other services and posts were predominantly occupied by the Muslims. And even the Legislative Assembly, which was set up in 1946, had majority Muslims over Hindus. So when the Independence Act of 1947 was implemented by the Britishers on 3rd June 1947, the Nizam issued a farman declaring his intention of not joining either Pakistan or India, as he wanted to become an independent state from 15th August 1947. Now, under the Indian Independence Act, all the rulers were had the option of either acceding to India or to Pakistan, or to retain its sovereignty and declare itself to be an independent state. But it is because that independence was given to them, the Nizam thought it fit to declare himself to be a sovereign state and to have an independent state where he would be ruling. So he did not want to accede to India, as that would have compromised his sovereignty and therefore his delegation, which he had sent to the Ministry of States in Delhi, suggested and also threatened that if he was pressurized into acceding to India, he would rather consider joining Pakistan. And also certainly Pakistan influence was also there, and also they were prompting him and also supplying with a lot of arms ammunition. So therefore that angle was also there, and at that time also there were issues with regards to Kashmir. So therefore the India could also not put much pressure, and also Hyderabad was a very rich state, and the Nizam had a lot of revenues, because in that time the annual revenue of Hyderabad was around rupees 26 crore, with a population of around 16 million people. So therefore it was certainly a rich state. It was not like any other state or any other ruler which would have easily acceded to India, or would have agreed to accede by even showing some pressure or using some tact or persuasion skills. So that time it was very difficult to accede Hyderabad into India. So later on, Lord Mountbatten was trying to persuade the Nizam that the correct course for him and the best course for him was to accede to India, because geographically it was in contiguity with India, and also culturally it had the same culture with the neighboring states. So since every other ruler had already taken a decision to accede to India by or before 15th August 1947, only three states had not acceded to India, and that were Jammu and Kashmir, Hyderabad, and Mysore. So, at Lord Mountbatten's insistence, the period was extended for these states for a further period of 3 months in order to continue with the negotiations. Now, the delegation which was sent by Nizam were pressing for not a treaty of accession, but a treaty of association. Now, that was not acceptable to India, because India had entered into an instrument of accession with all other rulers. And if it would have entered into an instrument of association with Hyderabad, that would then there would be a charge of distrust and breach of condition with the other rulers, and other rulers would also come and say that now this is because you are negotiating with Hyderabad and Hyderabad is not agreeing, so you want to agree with all the conditions that Hyderabad is putting. So therefore, Sardar Patel was not in favor of even the slightest of variation in the instrument of accession. So therefore, the negotiations with Hyderabad and its delegations were not fruitful. But ultimately, later on, the the Ministry of States agreed to enter into a standstill agreement, which were in with the British paramountcy, and the state of Hyderabad would continue with the Indian dominant taking over the British Commonwealth. So that agreement, after a lot of negotiations, was finally concluded, and the final draft was, the delegation then said that it would take the draft to Hyderabad, and it took the draft to the Nizam on 22nd of October, and they promised it to bring it back on 26th of October 1947. But on 26th October 1947, when the Nizam was to sign it, the standstill agreement, he postponed the signing it for the next day. Now, on 27th October 1947, around 25 to 30,000 crowd gathered around the house of the advisors of the Nizam, who were going to take the instrument of standstill agreement to Delhi, and they did not allow that to happen. They also did not allow the Nizam to sign the instrument, the standstill agreement. So therefore, this agreement failed and did not reach Delhi on 26th. And at that time, you must be aware that there was a private militia in the name of Razakars, which was a private militia uh, who was ruled by one person called Qasim Rizvi, who was a fanatic and wanted a theocratic state to be formed in Hyderabad, and he did not want Hyderabad to accede to India. Rather, he was wanting Hyderabad to accede to Pakistan. So this Qasim Rizvi, who was the founder of the Razakars, and basically Razakars, the word means that he's a volunteer who is doing social service, but rather it was a private militia and was creating havoc in the state of Hyderabad, and the Nizam did not have any control over him. In fact, what happened is he intervened and he said that you don't enter into this standstill agreement, and let there be another delegation be sent to Delhi and renegotiate the terms of the standstill agreement, and also we will not accede to India, and we will rather enter into a treaty of association rather than a treaty of accession. So they wanted to take advantage of the situation which India was at that time because of the problem with Kashmir. As on 26th October, also the tribals had attacked Kashmir and entered into Kashmir. So therefore, on 31st October, the Nizam wrote a letter to Lord Mountbatten stating that the negotiations have failed, but we want to renegotiate. And to which Lord Mountbatten was furious and said that once having agreed, and also the final draft being ready, and just your signatures were to be put into that standstill agreement, why have you changed your mind? But in response to that letter, the Nizam said that if government of India were to break down the negotiations, he would immediately negotiate and conclude an agreement with Pakistan. So these were the threats which were coming from Nizam and the Razakars, who were in control over the entire ministry and the administration in Hyderabad. Now, thereafter, he appointed a new Prime Minister, Mr. Liaq Ali, in the Executive Council of the Nizam at the behest of Qasim Rizvi. And therefore, the entire Hyderabad government came virtually under the control of Qasim Rizvi, who was the head of these Razakars. Now, this Rizvi personally went to Delhi and threatened Sardar Patel and also VP Menon, and said that if government of India persisted on plebiscite, then the sword would be the final arbiter. So this was the situation, and this is how they wanted to threaten. Not only that, they also did not want to bring in a responsible government. They wanted to rule themselves in an autocratic and in an authoritarian manner by use of sword and by use of force, and did not want the people to have their rights in the state of Hyderabad. Now, despite this, the government of India knew the delicate situation, and they wanted to continue with the negotiations because they knew that 85% of the population of Hindus were under the direct threat of these Razakars. And therefore, the situation was very delicate, and even otherwise, there was a lot of communal tension at that time due to partition. So thereafter, ultimately on 29th November 1947, the government of India accepted all the suggestions made by the Hyderabad Executive Council, and ultimately entered into a standstill agreement. And that standstill agreement was only for a period of 1 year. So that standstill agreement with regards to the arrangements which were made were that the administrative arrangements on matters of common concern, namely defense, external affairs, and communication, and which existed between the Crown and Hyderabad before transfer of power, would be continued. And this settlement made it clear on the part of the government of India that Hyderabad would at least for 1 year not accede to Pakistan. So that was the only gain which India had at that time over the situation in Hyderabad. But under that standstill agreement, which was entered, the Hyderabad government could not have any say with regards to external affairs. So they could not have their agents in, say, countries like Europe and USA, like delegates or councillors, which a country could have. But they wanted to show their dominant position, and they wanted to have these sort of councillor services, and they appointed a public relation officer in Pakistan, in Karachi. Even after entering with this standstill agreement, they issued two important firmans immediately, wherein the first imposed restrictions on export of all precious metals from India, from Hyderabad to India, and the second declared Indian currency to be not legal tender in state. So now, how a state which wants to become a part of a country can say that we will not accept your currency, or say that we will not export any precious metal out into the country from my state. So no state can do such a thing in a federal structure. So therefore, these were the problems which they were creating, and therefore the government of India ultimately told them that this violates the standstill agreement, and also the activity of the Razakars has to be stopped, and the violence which is being committed clearly comes to such a situation that there is a lot of internal disturbance in Hyderabad. So so thereafter, despite warning from the Indian government, the Hyderabad government did not stop that, did not withdraw these farmans. And on the contrary, the government of India came to know that the state of Hyderabad had advanced a loan of rupees 20 crores to Pakistan at that time. So, which otherwise a state which wants to accede to India cannot do. The government of Gujarat cannot advance loan to different countries without the permission of the center, because that is the external affairs is only with the central government. So India as a representative will discuss with foreign countries, not a state government. So therefore, these all activities had been started and continued by the state of Hyderabad. And also this Qasim Rizvi started making objectionable communal speeches, because Hyderabad was also expecting some retaliation or reaction from the government of India. So therefore, there was a lot of mistrust amongst government of India and state of Hyderabad, and this dominant class in the state of Hyderabad. So they started making objectionable speeches, and also started using force, and they started looting the border areas in the state of Madras, where the villages were looted. There was arson, there was murder, rape, etc. by these Razakars, and also by the Hyderabad troops in different territories of state of Bombay, in state of Madras, and also in other adjoining states. So state of Madras had to sought for the military aid of the government of India, and they had sought for this military help. But the government of India did not want to immediately react and send its military, because it wanted to negotiate and in a peaceful manner convince the rulers that the best option for the state of Hyderabad was to accede into the Indian dominion. Now, at that time, the Razakars were perpetuating crime after crime. And on 17th June 1948, the negotiations with regards to the agreement of accession had completely failed. And Lord Mountbatten, who was the last British Governor General of India, was to leave on 21st June 1948. And till that time, this is the only state which he could not convince. And even he mentioned that he was very disturbed by the manner in which Hyderabad state was functioning. But he was also of the opinion that the Indian government should try its best to resolve through negotiations and not through use of force or military. So another incident that was quite disturbing was that the member of the Executive Council of the Nizam, Mr. J.V. Joshi, resigned, and he gave his reasons for resigning, that there was a complete breakdown of law and order situation in the state of Hyderabad. The police, he said that the police had also joined with the Razakars in looting, arson, rape, and molestation of the territories of Hyderabad and most of the Hindus. There were 10,000 Congress members who were put in jail and were detained by these Razakars and Hyderabad police, because they were wanting a responsible government in the state of Hyderabad, which was accepted by all the rulers in all different states, and therefore they were merged with the union government. Now, these Razakars were so dominant and so powerful that they had an army of around 2 lakh personals with small arms. And the state forces, the state military of Hyderabad had around 42,000 members. And also they had imported Pathans into the state as for their military. So that was the powerful military that the Nizam had. In the month of August, because there was no the negotiations were not taking any fruitful step, and they were to a stalemate position. The Nizam wrote to the United Nations requesting to arbitrate between Hyderabad and India. But the president of the United Nations at that time refused, saying that it was a domestic matter between the state of Hyderabad and the dominion of India. So they did not intervene. But despite that, the Hyderabad government sent its delegation to America to present their case before the Security Council of the UN. And so they wanted international pressure to be brought on India so that India could not use force. Because if India was trying to use force, they could have brought military pressure, because even the Nizam was a well-connected person at that time. In fact, he was one of the most richest person in the world in those days. So, so ultimately, the situation was such that India was not in a position to negotiate or bring in any fruitful result for the Hindu majority in Hyderabad. So ultimately, in the month of September, the government of India decided that there is no other alternative except to send the military force, and therefore the military force under the direction of Lieutenant General Commanding in Chief Maharaj Sri Rajendra Singh, it was decided that he would be the chief of the operation, and the operation was given the name of Operation Polo by the army headquarters. And this operation began on 13th September, when the army entered into the state of Hyderabad, first from the Solapur Hyderabad road, and another division from the Bezwada Hyderabad road. And it was met with a strong resistance of the Razakars and the Hyderabadi army. But ultimately, that lasted for